Naomi used to believe that the pastor's wife, Evelina, was the holiest woman alive. Everyone in town respected her. When she walked past, people greeted her with smiles, bowed their heads, or even knelt down. She had a gentle voice that made people want to listen, and when she prayed in church, her words sounded like they went straight to heaven. Pastor Malachi and Evelina started the church small, with only a few families coming together, but soon the church grew fast. People said miracles were happening. Women who could not have children were suddenly pregnant. Sick people got healed. People got new jobs, bought cars, and moved into new houses. Everyone believed that God was moving in the church. Naomi was not rich, but she felt lucky to be part of the church. She worked as a cleaner, and sometimes she helped Evelina in her house. Evelina was kind to her in the early days. But then strange things started happening. A young man named Jonas argued with Evelina one day when he refused to pay church dues because he said he had no money. He raised his voice at her in front of everyone, and people were shocked because nobody ever spoke to her that way, but Evelina did not shout back. She simply looked at him and said, "It is well." The next morning, Jonas was gone. His family searched, but nobody found him. People thought he ran away or was kidnapped. But Naomi remembered the way Evelina had looked at him. A few weeks later, another thing happened. A woman named Ruth refused to kneel at the altar when the pastor asked everyone to pray. She said only God deserved her knees, not man. People gasped because she said it boldly. Evelina's face changed for just a second. She smiled again, but her eyes looked different. 2 days later, Ruth disappeared too. 2 people gone in a month, and both of them had disobeyed Evelina in public. The strangest thing for Naomi was during midnight prayers. Every week, the pastor and Evelina held prayers at the church, and during that period they told everyone to close their eyes. Naomi noticed that Evelina always pulled out a small black book during those times and would write in it while everyone's eyes were closed. Naomi thought maybe it was her prayer journal, where she wrote down the names of people to pray for. But after Jonas and Ruth disappeared, she started to wonder if that book was something else. Still, Naomi pushed the thought away. She told herself she was being foolish. This was the pastor's wife. She was holy. Naomi kept repeating it to herself because she wanted to believe it. But deep inside, something was not right. She just could not explain it yet. Naomi sometimes volunteered to clean the pastor's house, and this gave her access to places most people never saw. During the weekly church meetings, she also offered to cook and serve, believing that if she showed kindness to God's prophet, she would be blessed in return. One evening, during one of those meetings, Naomi was asked to serve food and water in the living room. She carried a tray carefully, but the glass slipped from her hand and shattered on the floor. Evelina's expression changed instantly, and she stared at Naomi with a look that made her tremble. From that day, Evelina's attitude toward Naomi shifted to the extent that whenever their eyes met, Naomi felt unwanted, as though Evelina wished her harm. A week later, Naomi was asked to clean the pastor and Evelina's bedroom. She felt uneasy about it but didn't refuse. As she bent down to dust the lower shelves, her eyes landed on something she recognized. It was the black book Evelina always carried during midnight prayers. The same one Naomi had seen her writing in. At first, Naomi tried to ignore it. She told herself to finish her work and leave quickly. But her curiosity grew stronger. Her hands shook as she slowly reached out, picked up the book, and opened the first page. It was filled with names, people from the church she knew well. Some had thick lines crossed through them, with dates written beside them in red or black ink. Her eyes stopped when she saw Jonas's name. Next to it was the exact date he had disappeared. She turned the page quickly and found Ruth's name too, also crossed out with the date she went missing. Every missing person's name was there. Then she noticed other names, people still alive in the church, but with no dates beside them. Naomi's hands shook as she turned to the last page. At the bottom was her own name, Naomi, and next to it was tomorrow's date with a small smear of blood mark beside it. She nearly dropped the book in shock. Everything made sense now. This book wasn't a prayer journal at all, but a book that decided who would live and who would die. Suddenly, the bedroom door slammed shut behind her. Naomi turned around, still clutching the book with shaking hands, but no one was there. Fear told her to run away and never come back. But another thought held her still, Pastor Malachi. He was the leader of the church, the man everyone respected. Maybe he did not know what his wife was doing, and he could stop her. Without thinking twice, she ran straight to Pastor Malachi's office and pushed the door open without knocking. Pastor Malachi was at his desk, reading. "Naomi," he said, his voice steady. "What is the matter?" Naomi placed the black book on his desk, her hands shaking. "Pastor, look at this. Your wife has been writing people's names in it. Everyone who disappeared, Jonas, Ruth, their names are here. And now mine is here too. Tomorrow's date is written next to it. This cannot be from God. Please, you must stop this." Malachi leaned back in his chair, his eyes on the book. He did not look surprised or shocked, instead he looked like someone who already knew. Finally, Malachi closed the book and placed his hand on it. "Do you think this church has survived only by prayer? Every blessing you see here came at a cost. My wife only keeps the book, but the covenant belongs to me." Naomi's mouth went dry. "No, Pastor, you're supposed to lead us in truth. This is evil." He stood slowly. "Evil," he repeated. "Or necessary? Do you think barren women gave birth by chance? Or jobs and money came like magic? No. Sacrifice brought it. Without it, there would be no church, no miracles." Naomi shook her head, tears filling her eyes. "But why me? I have served faithfully. I have cleaned your house, cooked and helped your wife. Why would you want me dead?" Malachi stepped closer and put a heavy hand on her shoulder. "Because you offended Evelina. She does not forgive such things, and once she writes a name, the book accepts it." He rested his hand on the book as though it were holy. "Do not fight it, Naomi. This is for the betterment of the church and its members. Consider it an honorary death. You will be dying for the greater good of many people." His words felt like knives cutting into her chest. "The greater good," she whispered. "You call murder the greater good?" Malachi's gaze did not waver. "Sacrifice is never easy, child. But it is necessary. Without it, the miracles you and others have enjoyed would not exist." Naomi shook her head, her tears flowing freely. "This is wickedness, and I will not give myself to it." Malachi's expression hardened. "You have no choice. Once the book has written your name, it is finished." She turned quickly and ran for the door, but immediately she moved. It felt as if something was squeezing her chest, pressing down on her lungs. She gasped for air, her vision blurring, and fell unconscious. Malachi stepped out from behind the desk, watching her without pity. He knelt for a moment, checking Naomi briefly, then lifted her easily in his arms. The church was not far from his house, so he drove them there. As soon as they arrived, he pushed the doors open and carried Naomi straight to the altar. He carefully made all the preparations for the sacrifice that was to take place at midnight, arranging the candles and setting the black book on a stand near the altar. Once everything was ready, he called Evelina to meet them in the church. As soon as Naomi opened her eyes, Malachi began to chant loudly, filling the church with strange sounds. Naomi gasped as a sudden pressure gripped her neck. It felt like invisible hands were strangling her. She could barely breathe, each gasp painful. She tried to stand, but her legs wouldn't move. The invisible force around her neck tightened, and for a moment she was sure she was about to die. But then from deep inside her, words forced their way out as she shouted with all her strength. "Jesus, save me. Please do not let me die like this." The moment she said those words, something changed. The wooden cross on the altar at the front of the church suddenly burst into flames. Malachi froze, his chanting breaking off. "This cannot be," he shouted. "This is not possible." Naomi remained on her knees, tears streaming down her face, but she kept praying. The black book in Malachi's hands shook violently. Its pages flipped on their own, faster and faster, as though an unseen force was tearing through it. Malachi clutched his chest and stumbled backward. Shadows appeared around him, stretching from the corners of the room. They wrapped around him like chains. He screamed and begged. Talking to the shadows, "I gave you sacrifices. I kept the covenant. Do not take me." Naomi looked up, still praying, her voice trembling. "Lord, deliver me from this. Do not let me die." Evelina entered the church, then rushed to the altar, her eyes wide with fear. "Malachi," she cried, holding on to him. But the moment she touched him, the same fire that burned on the cross spread to both of them. Their screams filled the church as flames covered their bodies until nothing was left but ashes. Naomi was still on her knees, shaking, her tears falling onto the floor. She could hardly believe she was alive. The church was filled with smoke and the smell of fire, but Naomi knew one thing for certain: the evil had been destroyed. She stayed in the church until the sun rose the next morning. She was too weak to walk home, too shocked to think clearly. Her mind replayed everything. She whispered prayers under her breath, thanking God for saving her. When morning came, people from the town started to arrive. They came for the Sunday service, dressed in their best clothes, expecting to see Pastor Malachi and Evelina leading prayers as usual. Instead, they found the church replaced with ashes and Naomi sitting on the floor near the altar. The people gasped. Some ran forward to help her, others stood back in fear. "Naomi, what happened here?" one man asked. "Where are Pastor Malachi and Mummy Evelina?" Naomi looked up slowly. "It is over, the book is gone." Confused faces stared back at her. "What book?" another asked. Naomi took a deep breath and told them everything. She explained about Evelina's black book, how the names of members were written in it, how those marked would disappear. She told them about finding her own name and how she ran to Pastor Malachi only to learn he was part of the covenant himself. The people were stunned. That same day, word spread through the whole community. Families of the missing wept as they realized what had truly happened to their loved ones. Others shook their heads in disbelief, unable to accept that the leaders they trusted had been serving darkness all along. Naomi left the church that day broken but alive. She never forgot what she saw, and she never stopped warning people afterward. Whenever anyone asked her about it, she would say the same thing. "Be careful. Not every miracle is from God. Not every smiling face is holy. The world is a spiritual place, and there are things happening in secret that many cannot see. Do not trust every church you walk into. Trust only God, because no man can save you." For Naomi, life was never the same again. But she was grateful for one thing, that in her darkest hour, she had called on the name of Jesus, and he had saved her from death.